Hi, this is Mr. Lesage, and this is a tutorial to help students in Math 7B work through the problems on the scale unit. This unit is about finding scale models, finding the scale of reductions and enlargements, and these are some of the problems from the assignment that goes with one of those lessons. In this first problem, the distance between two schools is 4 miles. On the map that shows as a ½ an inch. And we have to figure out what the scale of the map is. What we have to recognize, first of all, is that a scale is a ratio. And when we're looking at a single scale, as in this case, we're looking at a single ratio, but we can also solve these problems as proportions. When we put two ratios together, we get a proportion. So let's look at what they've told us here. We have 4 miles equal to ½ an inch. So we want one of these numbers, either the miles or the inches, to be a unit rate. So we want it to be a 1. We could do that by multiplying both sides by 2, as we've done here. So we take the 1/2 inch and make it into an inch. So in that case, 8 miles would equal 1 inch. So that's one of the ratios that we use, 8 miles to 1 inch. If we divided both sides of this by 4, you can see then that when we take 4 and divide it by 4, if we flip and use the reciprocal, this will give us 1 mile. And over here, doing the same thing, dividing by 4 means multiply by 1/4. 1 mile would equal 1/8 of an inch. So those are the two answers we have, and we just have to find one of them over here. This looks similar, but the numbers are in the wrong place. We have 1 inch and 1/8 of a mile. Here we had 1 mile and 1/8 of an inch. So although those fractions seem right, the units are not. This is the one that's going to be correct down here. I'm sorry, this will be the one that's correct up here, where we have 1 inch and it's equal to the 8 miles. It's just what we had right here. Only they flipped around and put the inch over here and the 8 miles here. Okay, so that's that first one. Let's look at another problem from that assignment. Here we go. In this case, we have two houses that are 15.4 inches apart. And if the scale for the map is every 4 inches on the map represents 10 miles, the scale was actually 1 inch equals 2.5 miles, but they chose to say 4 inches is 10 miles, then what's the actual distance between the two houses? So we start out over here by putting down, writing the ratio for our scale. This 4 inches equals 10 miles is right here. Then we take the other number that we're given, which is inches, and we put that in the same place in our ratio. So it goes in the numerator, and then miles will be in the denominator, and we don't know that number of miles that goes with this. Now hopefully you remember from your work with proportions previously that in order to solve a proportion, these two numbers multiplied together should equal these two numbers. So the 4 times whatever this number is going to be should be equal to 10 times 15.4. 10 times 15.4 is 154. We can divide to get rid of the 4 here and leave the unknown. And when we divide the 4 into 154, we're going to end up with 38.5. And that's why the 38.5 is shown here as the correct answer. Okay, here's the next problem from the assignment. And this one is really kind of interesting. It's a lot easier than it seems if we just look at the question. The question says Sid was given the following enlargement of a rectangle. So we know we went from this shape to this shape. We went from smaller numbers to larger numbers. So in that case, we're looking here for which one of these was the error that Sid made when he calculated the scale factor. what a lot of students get confused with is this idea. Enlargement scale is always greater than 1. Greater than 1. So 5/2 is an enlargement factor, but 2/5 and 1/5, those would be reductions of the size of the shape. So the correct answer to this one is by using 1/5, Sid was reducing the size, not enlarging the size. So he was doing exactly the opposite of what he should have done, which meant he was doing the reciprocal of the scale factor. The scale factor here is really 5 times. To go from 4 to 20, that's an enlargement of 5 times as large as it was before. So those are some of the problems you'll see when you do scales. Remember that a scale is a ratio. If you have a ratio and then one other number, you're going to use a proportion to solve the problems. I hope that helps, and good luck on your assignment and quiz for the different lessons in the scale unit.